Good morning, everyone. I'm Susan Demas, the executive editor here at Lincoln Square. And joining me, as always, on Tuesday mornings is Edwin Eisendrath, who hosts It's the Democracy Stupid right here on Lincoln Square on Friday afternoons. You know Edwin from his Substack, which is also called It's the Democracy Stupid, but he's a former Chicago alderman. He also ran the Chicago Sun-Times. He is a man of many careers and experiences, and we're always lucky to talk with him on Tuesday. Edwin, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Susan.
Well, let's close the loop as much as we can with any story with Donald Trump on this slush fund that we've talked about. It looks like Donald Trump is actually flushing this thing down the drain after even Republicans gave him pushback. I know Mike Johnson told him that this has stopped progress on an ICE bill that they want and other Republican priorities in the Republican-controlled House. And Donald Trump, for now, after being told no by the courts, seems like he's abandoned this effort. But Edwin, do you think this is the last that we'll hear of this?
I hope not. I mean, look, the man got his hand caught in the cookie jar in an absolutely corrupt deal, right? An absolutely corrupt deal negotiated with an absolutely corrupt Justice Department. And they got caught and they want no accountability for it. The judge, has reopened the case. And now they're going to say, well, there's no case here. So we should go away. I hope the judge doesn't do it. I hope the judge pursues this and determines whether there was actual fraud and that these guys were colluding to cheat the taxpayers in order to create a slush fund for vigilantes to show up and disrupt our elections and to pay people off for showing up at January 6th and trying to steal our country. No, I hope it doesn't go away. I want justice to be done. And I don't want him, once again, to be able to change the subject and say, oh, I didn't mean it. I was just stealing $2 billion for done nothing to see over there.
Yeah,
we're sick of this.
They wanted to give $2 billion to a bunch of felons, people who beat up cops on January 6th. So much for Back the Blue, of course.
No, right. And to encourage him to do it again.
Right.
Right. Enrique Tarrio thought he would get some of that money. He was convicted of seditious conspiracy. So look, this was a terrible idea from a terrible president. And now he got caught and got a hand in that cookie jar. And he's like, oh, well, there's nothing to see here. I got an MMA match coming. Why should we pay attention to this? Wait, what? I can get $2 billion or to $100 billion or whatever he's asking for more ICE agents. All nonsense. I hope the issue does not go away. It shouldn't go away. The man thought he could reach his hand in your pocket and mine, the treasury of the American people, with the head of the Justice Department in a crooked deal. I'm sorry, he does not get to change the subject on that. No.
Well, do you think that we can build on this momentum? Because anytime that Trump suffers a loss, that's an opportunity for those of us who are trying to save our democracy. Can we build on this and use this to shut down his stupid, $1 billion ballroom, the arch he wants to build, putting his face on money, putting his signature on money, taking over our U.S. passports. He already put his face on the National Parks Pass. What can we do to continue this fight and continue this momentum, Edwin?
Well, first, that image that we're showing now of him on the $20 bill, I've seen people do this. There should be bars over his face, and then people would accept the bill.
It's actually the 250th
250
that
right.
He wants to create.
Inflation, right? It's worth what 100 used to be. So the truth is we should just keep saying everything he wants to do is he's got money for this stuff. It costs money to do this. Costs money, that ballroom. He has no money for you. None.
Right.
You go to the grocery store, prices are up because of him, but he's got money for his pet projects. He's building that ballroom. You're paying more at your grocery store. He's repainting the tidy bowl pool with his little blue pellets, and he's got no money for your health care. And you're in rural America and your hospitals are closing, and he's redoing the White House for a big MMA match. He's got money for that. Yeah. But nothing for the American people. Nothing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, last year's budget that Trump signed, the Republican budget, slashed healthcare for everyone. We have 10 million people who are going without health care because of Donald Trump.
And rural hospitals closing. We really have the impact. I'm sorry to interrupt, Susan. I apologize, but I was late getting here, and so I ran here, so I'm full of energy. Look, the consequences of their decisions are coming home to roost. Like they're so stupid and so venal and so crooked. They assume that whatever they do is a one-day news story on our side, while they brand us 24/7 and line their own pockets. And the truth is that the truth is, and that they can't get away from it. Their decisions are hurting Americans every day. Farmers are going to say, like, okay, let's see. My nitrogen costs me way too much money now. My diesel is through the roof. If I manage to plant, I got nobody to help me bring in the crops because they've all been deported. And if by some miracle I bring them in, he's closed the markets to sell them, right? Yeah. So we tell that story over and over again while he's making corrupt deals. This corrupt deal brought us into this Iran war, and that's why the diesel fuel's through the roof. Yes. So it all ties together, but it's coming home. He's a terrible president, and the terrible decisions that he and his Congress have made have actual consequences. And gee whiz, fellas, it's not a one-day news story. It's our lives.
Yeah. Well, we've been sitting through media coverage since 2015 of all of the people who love Donald Trump, no matter what. There are endless stories about this, but there are new stories that I have noticed are coming out more frequently now with the price of gas, with inflation going up. It's the stories of people who voted for Trump and they feel betrayed. And Sean, our producer, collects these. And let's go ahead and run through one of them right now.
Sure.
I'm President Trump. I'm in charge. He doesn't care about us. Somebody asked him about a week ago, what about the American people? And they're struggling right now.
To what extent are Americans' financial situations motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit.
He did not care. I couldn't even watch that. I was angry after that. Like, I voted for you and you don't care about me?
Last year,
Okay, so let me I have two reactions to that. One, she's right. He doesn't care. Two is, I hope to God that on our side, we don't say, well, then, shame on you for having voted for him. Mm-hmm. I think what we have to say is that pain is real. That betrayal is real. I know that you are frustrated with politics on all sides and you want to throw a rock through the political system because everybody's abandoned you. But look, we are trying. You got a crop of good candidates in Texas, a crop of good Democratic candidates where you are. That was Texas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Crop of good candidates. We listen to them, give them a real listen, and come on home because we can fix this.
Yeah. Yeah. And in Texas, so we have the barn burner of a U.S. Senate race between Ken Paxton, probably the most corrupt attorney general in office right now, who is actually impeached by a Republican House. He is on one side. He beat the incumbent, John Cornyn, the U.S. Senator, in a runoff. He will be facing James Talarico, who has been raising a lot of money. He's a seminary student. He is getting a lot of crossover support. But Edwin, I thought was really fascinating. Ken Paxton was on Fox News over the weekend, and his biggest defense is, hey, I'm just like Donald Trump, so you should vote for him. And let's watch that now.
What are you going to do about your own record and your own perception? The Wall Street Journal describes you as scandal plagued.
Well, look, that was all pushed by Karl Rove, and I understand how that works, and I get why they said that. But the reality is, they could say the same thing about Donald Trump. When you're fighting the fight, unfortunately, you get attacked, and you have to defend yourself. And when you do that, and they're not successful, they still accuse you of things. Accusations don't mean that the thing actually happened. They have to prove these things in our country. That they did not do with President Trump, and that they did not do with me, and yet they continue to act like something bad happened when they have no proof of it.
Well, Edwin, actually, we did prove that against Donald Trump. He has been convicted in several courts of law, both for what he did to sexually assault E. Jean Carroll, who his Justice Department is now going after with a criminal probe, and also on corruption charges. So not a great comparison, but it makes sense to me that this is the road Ken Paxton is going down, because he's seen the polling. He knows he's in trouble.
Ken Paxton is a revolting man. He is he's not a felon. He wasn't convicted, but he was impeached and is Donald Trump helped the party to let him off. He was charged with very serious crimes, and Trump's Justice Department looked the other way. Look, he is in my mind, he's a criminal, even if he's not been found guilty in court. But remember, this Justice Department is compromised. But his campaign consists of saying that James Talarico is a vegan, right? I mean, okay, James Talarico is a Texas vegan, and let's be clear what that means. That means he will allow a beefsteak tomato to put on his hamburger, right? I mean, the man's been eating barbecue, as Talarico even says, I've been eating barbecue since before Paxton was indicted, But so they're going to say, oh, he's a trans, he's gay, he's upside down, he's a Martian, really. You should, like, whatever they're going to say, they're going to make up whatever is their social, socially divisive lie of the day. And it's so painful, Susan, because what they think is good politics, right, is just to take a whole group of Americans and say, if you're like them, or if you're even open to them, you're not fit for office. Well, not one of these people, Talarico, Trump, any of them, wants to be president of all of America. Not one of them. They want to be president of whatever is the biggest subset of America they think will get them elected, and everybody else is going to be exploited and work for them. And I'm sorry, that's not the deal we signed up for in 1776 or 1789 when the Constitution got done. None of that. They're just out of step with our history. So Ken Paxton, Florida, Texas is a very red state. He might win. It's repulsive to think about. But Talarico is not taxing the country, the Democratic Party institutions around the country, because he's able to raise his own funds.
Right.
And that's not true for Paxton. So I hope Talarico wins, and he has a chance. But the whole country is going to owe him a huge debt of thanks, whether he wins or not, because it's a net huge drain on Republican resources to defend that asshole in Texas.
Absolutely. And I mean, this campaign is going to get about as ugly as it comes. I mean, the fact that basically the message that's coming out of the Republican Party is, who cares how unlikable, how adulterous, how corrupt Ken Paxton is? He's facing a guy who's gay or trans, so you know what to do.
And which
only going to get worse from here.
Absolutely right. And without casting any aspersions on gay or trans, it also is just not true.
Right.
Right.
But the idea that is like the worst thing that you can be is just so thoroughly disheartening and disgusting in the year 2026 in America.
I think the entire Republican Party it has forfeited its legitimacy in the democracy. And Donald Trump does it all the time, talking about how much he hates America's cities, how much he hates Democrats, how much he hates with Pete Hegseth, blacks and women. They should not have any power in the military. And this week in Minnesota, the Minnesota Republican Party met, and they had, before they opened their meeting, they all stood for a moment of silence in solidarity with Derek Chauvin, the cop who murdered George Floyd, who's in prison for it. But this is what they thought they should do. Hey, you know what? We got a lynching here, and they caught our boy, and we need to have some solidarity with him. I mean, that is just, Susan, I was sick reading it. That is not a path forward for America. It is not a path forward. No matter what these people think they're doing, they are not going to take a third of our country and throw us in the Atlantic and the Pacific. That's just not going to happen. We are here, and we will not be exploited by them. We won't be used by them. We won't be ignored by them. We are not invisible, and we are not powerless.
Yeah. I mean, really, the Republican Party has become a party of sadism. I mean, that is really the bottom line for that party.
Coercion and hate.
And Donald Trump, is not the only person pushing this. Once Donald Trump is off the stage, this is what they're going to be left with: a bunch of groypers and racists and, people.
And they hate women more than they hate anybody. I mean,
right. People who want to make America white again. And that is what this party is. And that is not a formula for a majority in this country, which is why they're working so hard to only make sure that their supporters are able to vote.
And just to be clear, it's completely disgusting on its own, but it also impacts everybody's pocketbook. Because while you're busy spending all your energy trying to put people down, trying to do the division, trying, by the way, to change the subject so that's what people look at, you create space for the corruption that just simply makes your life miserable. No matter what you look like, no matter where you live, no matter what you believe, whether you're in a rural farm community or down the street here in Chicago, the policies that this administration are undertaking while they're busy dividing us are robbing from us. Yeah. I mean, you and I were talking last week about the huge tax we all pay because diesel prices through the roof, right? And in the week since then, our president has told us we have peace, we got a deal, we're very serious. Oh, wait, Bibi and I are in a fight. Oh, wait, Iran says there's not.
Yeah, that got weird, didn't it?
It got because they don't have an idea.
I think we have some headlines. Yeah.
Oh, there we are, right? I mean,
the girls are fighting again.
Well, I raised two young women, and I wouldn't say it that way. These mad men, for their own reasons, both probably to try and stay out of jail.
Right.
They were.
Trump brought up allegedly to Netanyahu, who said you would be in jail if it weren't for me.
Okay, look, they I don't want to say what's in my head. They made a deal to go to war together, and we're 5-6 weeks in, and now that deal is broken. These are snakes. Right. When you decide you're going to go and get in a foxhole with somebody, you better be reliable, and neither of these men is.
So we've now tanked gas prices. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. Netanyahu was able to meet some of his objectives going into Lebanon, upping violence in the West Bank. But fundamentally, the region is a lot less stable than it was before this war started on February 28th. I mean, nobody can really feel like they've gotten that much out of this.
Except Iran, and we're a lot of pain for sure. But they now know they can close the Strait of Hormuz. That's a gift as big as giving them a nuclear weapon to be able to stop the whole global economy. So they're the winners. Everybody else is a loser in this, and the human sacrifice is unconscionable. The people killed over there by everybody's bombings. It's not making people safer. At some point, you have to sit down and have a political solution. You cannot just beat people up or bomb people and get what you want all the time. That's not how a school playground works, and it's not how the global politics works. I mean, I don't even want to think this. You can't bomb your way to victory unless you're willing to drop nuclear weapons. And that's unthinkable. It's unthinkable.
Well, maybe not with this president. I mean, he's certainly threatened it enough. But the fact that there is reporting that he's bored of the conflict now. That's why you started hearing the ramp up for invading Cuba, because he needs some new hot conflict for him to get involved in without closing, the loop on the last war that he started. I mean, going to war is the most sober decision that a president can make. Putting our troops in harm's way should be something that nobody does lightly. This guy looks at it like, oh, this was like an advertising campaign for Trump steaks. It didn't really work out the way I wanted, so I'm going to pivot to casinos now. But instead, we have 13 servicemen who have been lost, thousands of lives all over the Middle East, especially in Iran. I mean, this is why he has no business being president, and why nobody really at this point wants to be president, aside from, his solid 30%. But Edwin, right now,
and the oligarchs who are profiting from him.
This is true. This is true. But the American people, clearly with that Trump voter, I mean, she speaks for a lot of people who are tired of this. But Marco Rubio will be on the Hill today to answer questions about this war for the first time. Even some Republicans are really getting tired of this conflict. But Marco Rubio is pretty slick. He's pretty good at handling the press. He's pretty good at handling other Republicans. Do you think we're going to hear anything of interest from him?
No, I don't. Because everyone in that administration their job is to go to the Hill and say, the decisions are all the president's. I don't even know. I don't really have a job. I'm here, to put on the shoes that he gives me and walk around, whether they fit or not. 14 jobs, whatever. Too many to do any of them well, right? But everyone is so careful to say, look, all the decisions are the president's. I don't want to get ahead of the president. President makes every decision because this is who they are. They live in this monarchy. So no, I don't think we'll hear anything from him. He has nothing to say. What can he say? I mean, whatever he says will be made irrelevant probably by 2 a.m. in some, blistering set of posts by the president. Right. So no, this administration is lost. They're helpless. They do not know what to do with the problems that they've created. They don't know what to do about inflation. They don't know what to do about war. They don't know what to do about closing schools and hospitals. They don't know what to do about the panic that Americans are feeling, the loss of confidence in our economy. They don't know what to do about that. And what's interesting, you and I, we're not candidates. We're not out running for office. So we're talking about how pathetic this administration is, how dangerous, how out of touch. But when I go listen to Democratic candidates out there running for office, they spend about 2 minutes on Trump and they make the connection between his corruption and the problems that Americans face. But they love their communities. They want to serve those communities. And they aren't talking so much about Trump. They're talking about the people in the room, the people who are there and their lives and how to make them better. And I think that's just absolutely fabulous. I heard about a candidate today. I heard about a candidate this morning who's running in Texas in one of these gerrymandered districts. And he turns out to be a very big Latino music star.
Right.
Very, and his opponent said, oh, well, you know what? He might be good to play at your quinceanera, but not at Congress. And that spread like wildfire over the district. And he said, hey, look, if you want me for your quinceanera, call me. And he's now playing them all over the place. He's like a huge star, right? He's playing at all of these. And he's saying, I'm not going to charge you anything, but everybody has to register to vote. How about that? Like in Texas. So these
great technique.
Huh?
Yeah. Well, we do have some, pretty important primaries today, Edwin.
Big primaries.
Headlining would be Iowa and California. California is really interesting because they have a jungle primary for governor.
Yep.
And we've had a lot of controversy in that race. The latest polling that I've seen shows that Tom Steyer, billionaire, and Xavier Becerra, who served in the Biden administration, they seem to be leading the pack. There was some fear at some, earlier on that Democrats could actually get locked out of the 1 and 2 spot. But Donald Trump, I don't think, did the top Republican that sheriff any favors by endorsing him, because it is still California, and they're not big fans of Donald Trump over there. How do you see that race turning out?
I think the two you mentioned are going to be in a runoff. I mean, I don't have any inside scoop. I have a brother who lives there, you know, and we have an interesting mayor's race in LA,
Yeah.
you know, but I think the Democrats, it will be 1 and 2. And, you know, they're both interesting candidates and they both would be good governors. I mean, you know, it's very hard. I mean, Tom Steyer is the billionaire Democrats like.
Yeah, I gotta talk to you about that, Edwin, because like, you know, I see a bunch of people who have bumper stickers on their cars that say billionaires shouldn't exist are now online talking about how much they love Tom Steyer. And I get that he's, you know, kind of gone for that progressive vote, but it is a weird disconnect for me. I gotta be honest.
It's a weird time. I mean, there's so much weirdness in our politics, you know, all the categories we thought mattered are all being challenged all over the place. I mean, I got a billionaire governor in my state and he's done a fine job.
Yes.
You know, so
yeah. So I guess the FDR mode of politics.
Well, by the way, all of these billionaires that we're talking about, both J.B. Pritzker and Tom Steyer, think they should be taxed more. Yeah. So let's just, you know, I mean, they understand the economic problems that creating a billionaire class has caused to the country.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got that race. You also mentioned the LA mayor's race. We did talk with incumbent Mayor Karen Bass. She's a congresswoman a couple months ago. She's facing, you know, a huge field as well. Not 61 candidates like for the governorship, but more than a dozen. And familiar story, a reality TV star, Spencer Pratt. I can't say I ever watched The Hills, but I was aware of it. And the guy just seemed like such a complete douche, but he's following in Donald Trump's footsteps. He is making hay with a lot of discontent over crime, but especially the fires last year. And a lot of people are still displaced. And then there's also a progressive candidate, one of Karen Bass's former allies, who is running as well. What do you make of that race, Edwin?
First, what I make of it is that the job of Congress, of the kind of things you do in Congress, and the job that's required of a mayor are vastly different.
Yes.
Karen Bass is very smart and very talented, but she had some stumbles. Because being a mayor is a very different kind of a job.
Especially of the second largest city in the country.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very different job. But it's a hard job on a good day for anybody. And mayors are having trouble everywhere. That's one. Two, there are a lot of people who don't believe in politics anymore. They don't believe in, so they're happy to throw their vote away on a terrible candidate because it's like, well, screw all of you. I'm voting for this terrible guy. But my gosh, now we're living with the results of this across the whole country. And I hope the good people of Los Angeles reflect on that before they go to vote and throw away their vote and their city's future on this Trump light guy trying to be their mayor.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Iowa, because that's also.
We've got a really intense primary on the Democratic side for an open U.S. Senate seat because Joni Ernst is not running for re-election. How do you think that one's going to end up?
I think it's very close, and I don't know who's going to win, but they're both really good candidates. That's, I've heard them both. I think they're really talented campaigners. I think they'll do very well in the Senate. And I think, Iowa's my neighbor, and I talk to a lot of people there. I think Iowa is flippable.
Yeah.
So I think we have a pick. We may pick up a couple House seats there that people aren't expecting, and we might win a Senate seat there.
Possibly up to 3. Mark Pocan, the congressman from nearby Wisconsin, he is very bullish on even flipping 3 seats there, which would be huge.
Yep. So Iowa, their Republican governor and their Republican governance has done what it does. It's made a mess of their state. It made a real mess of it. I mean, talk about closures of rural hospitals. The ones that are open basically don't offer anything anymore. You want to have a baby, go forget it. Drive to the nearest city, wherever that is.
Iowa City.
Yeah, what's happening to the farmers is terrible. What's
That's
happening
what I
to
was born.
yeah, and what's happening in the universities is terrible there. I mean, it just, child labor is proving to be not the panacea that they thought it was, but they have all the problems that it always had. And these kids that they now legalized working in meat plants late at night, the pollution there is the agricultural pollution in their state is off the charts. And so the good people of Iowa are saying, okay, look, we've never, it's been a long time since we've trusted any Democrats, but these guys have really screwed us. So there's and our candidates are good, Susan. Our candidates are doing, like I said before, they're not focused on Donald Trump. They're focused on Iowa and the people in their districts and how to make their lives better, which I love. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And every Republican in the country is running saying, I'm like Donald Trump. They're not saying, I see your pain. I see your problems. Here's how we can solve them. They're saying, I'm with him. And somehow he's going to solve them.
And they're hiding from their voters. They won't do town halls.
Yeah.
They won't pick up. Some of them won't pick up their phones. Good luck. If you have a vulnerable Republican congressman representing you, good luck trying to get a hold of that person if you have a problem right now.
Good luck thinking that person will help you with your problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Joni Ernst isn't running for what? 2 reasons. One, we all got to die sometime, she said, when someone
was asking her about the healthcare cuts.
Yes. And she said, we all got to die. That was not a good moment for her. But everybody has thoughtless moments where she took a lot of time and thought about it. She voted for Pete Hegseth. And this is somebody who was a woman in the armed services.
Who has talked about
how important that is.
Right. And facing sexual harassment. And yet she voted for someone who several women have come forward with horrific stories about his behavior.
Well, and look what he's done to women in the ranks of the military. He just purged more this week.
Yes. Especially
there it is.
African-American women in particular, and trying to promote more of his cronies.
Yep. Yeah. The purge and takeover of the U.S. military is terrifying, and terrifying for a lot of reasons. But to have a purposeful race and gender policy at the top that says to the men and women who are in our very diverse armed services, hey, those of you who don't look like you should be invited to my birthday party, we don't care about you. And you want to tell soldiers who you're sending into battle we don't care about you? That is a formula for degrading the capability of our defense of America. It doesn't make it stronger; it makes us weaker.
Getting rid of qualified people because they happen to be women or not white is a recipe for weakening the military. That's
right.
not the way it's supposed to work.
And by the way, it is illegal, but Harmeet Dillon, who runs the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department, is also breaking the law because in that Justice Department. Yep.
Yes.
Crimes that don't get investigated, crimes that don't get prosecuted by an administration that only wants to use the power of the government to line its pockets with corrupt deals and go after its enemies.
Yeah. Well, if you want to see more of the 2 Democratic candidates, Josh Turk and Zach Walz, who are seeking the Democratic nomination for U.S. Senate, Joe Trippi had both of them on his show On the Ground. Definitely worth revisiting because those were really great interviews months before I think this was really on the national radar. So Edwin will. And
they've only gotten better as candidates.
Yeah.
As we all do, candidates with practice.
Right. Well, we'll definitely have plenty to talk about next week as we see what the results of tonight's elections are, assuming that we'll know what happened in California by next week. You never know with mail-in voting there, but hopefully we'll have some insight. Edwin, I know that you were one of the people who got kind of a sneak peek at the new Obama Center right in your hometown of Chicago. Why don't you tell us what that was like? Because that's a sober contrast to what we're seeing going on the White House lawn, where it's been torn apart for his new ballroom, for the MMA cage. I mean, this is a beautiful shot of what this library looks like, as opposed to what Trump is doing right in DC.
Yeah, I mean, the grounds are amazing. The building is interesting, but what's inside it, Susan, I mean, first, in fairness, I didn't see all of it because I was too busy crying. I mean, because the story it tells from the moment you walk in is a story that isn't focused on Barack Obama. It's focused on Americans. It's focused on what have we done together to keep the promise that was made at the very beginning, that we are going to form a country based on equality and opportunity and a government that divides power but protects us, right? And so the stories of people are throughout this building. The rooms and the beautiful overlooks inside it are not named after the donors. They're named after people who have done wonderful things in this country. So in all kinds of ways, the exhibits are fabulous, just fabulous on the challenges we've overcome, right? And then there's, of course, Barack's story for sure in there, but it's all very, very well done. And I just think that this idea that a president raises money for his library, and it is a library about us and our struggles and how we have overcome them and how we can overcome them and what it means to be all Americans together. You know, I calculate Walt Whitman in my head the whole way about this multitude of Americans. It's a thing of great beauty. And when you contrast that to Donald Trump's like, oh, there aren't Americans, there's only me. You know, you like me, and I get to like steal the money out of the treasury for whoever I want, and I get to tear down the White House. I mean, there's a whole section on the White House, the People's House, you know, with beautiful pictures, by the way, of a rose garden that doesn't exist anymore, and a model of an Oval Office that's not dripping with you know, Russian designed gold, you know, gilt nonsense. I mean, just everything about it was a reminder of who we are. Like, don't pay attention to that man behind the curtain. That's not you. This is you. This is us. And together, these are the things that we can accomplish. So it was beautifully, beautifully done from top to bottom. And by the way, it also shows off my city in lovely ways. It's just sited beautifully. The gardens are absolutely lovely. And there's, you know, a public library as part of it that's well done. There's a basketball center that the community can use that's gorgeous. There's a forum for community meetings and organizing and civics that will become very important. So I know it's had its critics because the building is unusual. But in all, it's a just lovely. I hope everyone gets to go and experience the storytelling and the. I mean, the artifacts are well chosen, including, by the way, a set of pens that Frederick Douglass used to write some of his best speeches. You know, so it is a history of us building on our promise, and it leaves you feeling like we can do it again and again and again because we have a lot still to do, but we have the ability to do it. Just, I mean, it doesn't mention Donald Trump; he's not there, but the contrast is in everybody's head as they walk through. I mean, I might say, while I was walking through, people were like, "And then there's that guy."
Yeah. Well, Edwin, we'll have to talk a little bit more because next week will be the lead up to another Trump birthday and his MMA fight and his concert that now seems to be on the rocks. But we'll touch on that next week.
Hold that thought 1 second.
Yeah.
It's also the run up to probably thousands of alternative celebrations.
Yes.
Right? So he's going to have his little party with his hand-selected crowd, and we're going to have a real party celebrating the America we love. And it's not going to be, I don't care about him that day. He can be in his little cage, or he can be up above it on his little balcony overlooking the cage, pretending he's Mussolini or whoever he wants to pretend to be. The rest of America we are so done with this man. He is so ancient history. He does not get to tell us how to celebrate the holiday of a nation we love.
Absolutely. Well, Edwin, I always appreciate you being here every Tuesday. And of course, you'll be back with us on Friday afternoon for your show. It's the Democracy Stupid. But before we go, tomorrow we have the debut of a new show on Lincoln Square with Stephen Beschloss, who is one of the most thoughtful journalists and writers that I've ever talked with. He has a new show. It's 6 Questions with Stephen Beschloss. And we do have a trailer here that
Sure.
we can take a look at.
Hi, I'm Stephen Beschloss. You don't need me to tell you we're living through a time of overwhelming chaos and cruelty committed by a hateful man and a lawless regime that's bent on dismantling our democracy and attacking our foundational values every single day. The onslaught of news can be overwhelming, exhausting, a reason for despair. But seeing our way through this nightmarish time requires understanding where we are, how we got here, and where we're going. That means digging deep, asking critical questions, and looking for answers. That means exploring the ideas and undercurrents that shape our society and explain our body politic. That means never hesitating, speaking truth to power. I'm launching 6 Questions with Stephen Beschloss, a new video podcast to seek insights and answers with expert guests on urgent issues facing our democracy. And we'll do it with speed and with focus. 6 questions, not long, meandering conversations, with people like Mary Trump on her uncle's mental disorders and the resulting national trauma, George Conway on the need for accountability, Eddie Glaude on race and the continuing consequence of racism. I hope you'll join us as I ask the necessary questions, seek meaningful answers, and aim for understanding and clarity that can help us get through this dark chapter in our history, better prepared to build a positive democratic future.
Good. He and I worked together 20 years ago. It was an interesting project. So it's going to be nice to see him again.
Great. Well, looking forward to checking in with you next week, Edwin. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Susan.